Welcome to your BetterGradesFast.com live online tutorial. It is my pleasure to serve you today. We will now start our prayer. I politely ask if you're not comfortable with a Christian prayer, please turn your volume down in 15 seconds. Heavenly Father, kindly direct me to meet each learner's needs. Please direct each learner to clearly understand all that is necessary for success. In Jesus' name, Amen. So guys, before we begin this little challenge, remember we are going to start with a Kahoot challenge that would be based on section 1 type SEA questions. So before we do that, let's begin with the joke of the day. So what did the one MacBook say to the other MacBook? He said, hey dude, I already have enough problems. Yes, that's correct, Nathan. Okay, guys, so for those of you who aren't familiar with the Kahoot game, what you need to do is go to the site that you see on your screen here, which is www.kahoot.it. So you type that in your Google search engine. That would be the first step. The second step, you would be prompted to enter a PIN. So the PIN you would enter is the PIN you see on your screen, which would be 2325477. Right? Upon entering the PIN, you'll be asked to give a nickname. So you can choose the nickname you like. So we have 002, we have the Grim Reaper, we have Banana Pudding, we have Hey Go, we have 00334. That's a very interesting one. And we have a cat again. Somebody loves cats. Right? So for those of you joining, if you aren't familiar, the steps would be to go to www.kahoot.it. That would be the first step. Right? You'll be prompted to give a code. You type the code 2325477. Upon typing the code, the final step would be to give yourself a nickname, right? So it don't have to be your name. It could be Apple, it could be Pierre's, you know. So like Dot, we have Dot now joining us. I'll give you guys 1 minute again before we proceed. Right, so let me just make sure we're on the same page. Right, so if you're not sure how to go to the Kahoot game, you would literally type kahoot.it. This would take you to this prompt. You would type the pin here for the game. When you type the pin here, you press enter, you'll be prompted to give a nickname. You would type the nickname, right? And that would take you to this point here. You'll put in your nickname. So we have Dot. So let's begin this game. So we have Dot, we have 002 Hearts, Lee, Grim Reaper, Banana Pudding, Hey Go, 00334, and a cat. So if you didn't get a chance to log in, that's fine. Just follow along the game and you can always message me the response individually. So let's get the game started. Remember, these questions are based on section 1 type SEA questions. So let the games begin. Two-fifths of a number is 4. What is the number? So you guys have a minute, which is the estimated time you should take on a section 1 question with its worth 1 mark. Right, now remember your awarded points, not just for correct response, but the first person to answer gets more points. So the correct response would be 10. Why is it 10? Well, we have 2/5 of the number being 4. So 2/5 of the number is 4. So we have to represent this like this. Pretend you have 5 small boxes and you have 2. And out of those 2 boxes, 4 supposed to fit in those 2 boxes. So how much would 1 have? One of those small boxes of those 2 would have 2. So how much would 5 boxes have? We would have 5 multiplied by 2 to give you 10. So the correct answer is 10 in this case. So let's go ahead, guys, to question number 2. So in a class of 40 students, 10 love mathematics. So what percentage of the class love mathematics? Now remember, this is percentage, right? Right, so the correct response would be 25%. How did we get 25%? Well, first, let us write the fraction of persons in the class that love mathematics. So how do we write that as a fraction? Well, there are 40 students as your total in your class, and 10 out of those 40 love math. So to write that as a fraction, it would be 10 over 40. We would have that first. So we have 10 over 40 multiplied by 100. So we'd have 10 over 40 can be reduced to a quarter in simplest terms. We'd have a quarter of 100, which would give you 25%. So let's go on. So we have a close battle here. So we want to question number 3. Now this one is a giveaway question. This is a knowledge question. How many edges does a cube have? Right, so you guys are supposed to be aware of this question. The answer would be 12 edges. So for those of you who aren't familiar with what an edge is, let me do a quick example to make sure. I don't want anybody to be lost at this stage. So I would make a very bad drawing of a cube, but for illustrative purposes, don't judge me. So what would be an edge? Of course, you would have the back parts, right? But just illustrating something here. So an edge would be this part, this straight line here. So that goes vertically, that's 1. This is another edge. Here would be another edge. Here would be another edge. So if you count the number of edges by hand, what you would have is this. You would have 4 edges on the bottom because you would have a square at the bottom of this cube. So you would have 4 edges there. We would have 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be 8 edges. Then we'd have 9, 10, 11, 12. So we have 12 edges there in all. Right, so that is the explanation behind this problem. So let's proceed to the game again. So we have a tough battle going on here. Right, so a square has 4 lines of symmetry. Is that true or false? The answer would be true. A square does have 4 lines of symmetry. A rectangle has 2 lines of symmetry. So I want to illustrate it. It's not just about the competition. I want you guys to remember the exam is drawing pretty close, not to scare anybody. All right, so this is my perfect square here. Right, so remember, square has all equal sides. So if we were to fold the square, how many times can we fold it? Well, we can fold it like this. That's 1 time. We could fold it in half like that. We can fold it in half like that. That's 2 lines of symmetry. We can fold it across the diagonal like that. 3 lines of symmetry, and we can fold it. Oh my God, that was bad. Along that diagonal as well. So that would be the 4 sides. So I want to make sure we understand this. So it's not just about the competition, guys, right? So I want to make sure we understand this. Let me know if you're confused about that. Right? This is a knowledge question, so you either know it or you don't. Now you could remember you could only fold the square along the diagonal simply because all sides are equal. Right? So you could only do that if all sides are equal. So let's consider another example. Let's consider a rectangle. Right? So we have this rectangle now, which isn't the square having the same sides all around. Right? So what we can do now, so symmetry would represent the line it makes when you fold the object exactly in half. Right? That's correctly, yeah, the answer will be 2. So you have to fold this object directly in half. So you can do this like that, directly in half. So what happens is this edge here, you're taking it and folding it to meet this edge here. So that would represent, you can do that 1 time, it would leave a crease in the middle. That would be 1 line of symmetry. The other way you can fold this rectangle is along the side here. So you bring this corner piece to meet this corner piece here, and this corner piece to meet this corner piece here. Right? So you're basically pulling this thing down so you could fold it in half. And the line of symmetry you would get, let me do it in a different color, would be here. That's the crease it would make. And when you fold it in the other direction, you would get the crease here, exactly in half. So you'd have 2 lines of symmetry. Now, can we fold this along the diagonal and get exactly this point meeting this point? This point here meeting this point here? No, that would not happen because they are not equal. So if you have a rectangular piece of paper, you could try to fold it when you're home and see if that happens. And the answer will be no. Right? So anytime you're given a shape and you need to find symmetry, think about if you fold it in half, if you would get the exact opposite. So an example is like, consider your face by a mirror when you look at the mirror, right? So if you just keep half of your face, the other half would look like exactly the same, right? To give you like a symmetric shape. So you have one eye on your left side, you'll have another eye on your right side, right? They're supposed to be like about equal distance between your nose, right? So think about symmetry like that. Or think about cutting, in this case, think about folding a page, a rectangular page, right? So the normal computer pages that you have, if you try to fold it in half, you can only do that 2 times. You cannot do it along the diagonal. They would never meet together to give you an exact shape. Right, so I just wanted to touch on that a little bit briefly before we continue to the game. Remember, we still have a game going on, but in as much as we want to do the games, I want to make sure we provide the explanation for you guys. So you got a break to recuperate. So let's proceed again. So we have some trailblazers here. So a television set costs $750 after a discount of $250. What was the original price? Now remember, you have a minute to answer these, guys, so don't just rush to get the answer. So the correct response would be, so the television cost $750. Now I put after in capital for a reason. So after you got the discount, you'd have paid $750. So what would have been the original price? So let's take a look at discount. So what is discount? Discount is more or less the price that you would get off, or percentage, sometimes it's given as percentage, off a particular item. So we'd pay a smaller price for the item. For example, if let's say a donut is on sale for $10 and you are given a discount of 10% off that donut. 10% of $10 would be $1. So what you're really paying is 90% for that donut. So if you find 90% of $10, that would give you $9. That's one way to solve the problem. The other way is look at this. 10% of $10 would be $1. So the donut costs 10. 10% off is what you get for the donut. So that would be $1. So you need to subtract that 1 to give you 9. Now, in the context of this question, I changed it up a bit. Wanted to confuse you guys a little bit. So we have $750 would be the cost after a discount of $250. So in this case, I'm actually telling you the price is this after I got a discount. So if you want the original price, you need to add your discounted price, which is the $750. The price after your discount is your discounted price, right? So that's your discounted price there. So it would be a discounted price plus your discount itself, which is $250. So your answer would be $1,000. So in the case of the donut, right? If we were to use that question here, the donut, the discounted price of the donut would be $9. The discount would be $1. So the cost of the donut without the discount would be 9 plus 1 to give you 10. And that is what this problem is basically saying for you to do. So I'm going to launch the poll. Let me know if you're confused about discount price, discount, and so on. Right, in as much as we're doing a game, I want you guys to understand the questions. We don't have much time left for the exam, not to scare anybody. We're on the home stretch this time. Wonderful. Let's go back to the game, guys. Yes, as Nathan is reminding me, in 9 days. Right, so this is how we'd have gotten the $1,000 in this question. So the cost $700 after the discount. The discount is $250, so we need to add both. Ooh, we have a tough battle going on there. So we are on to question number 6. So for those of you who are in the decimal class, this should be a piece of cake. Arrange the following in descending order. Right, so the correct response would have been 2.5, then 2.12, 1.32, and 1.23. So how do we arrange in descending order? Well, we need to start. First of all, you need to know what descending means. So descending would mean from largest to smallest, right? Ascending would be from smallest to largest, right? So if you did not know that, you'd have been in some problems from the start. So that's the first thing. So you need to start with the biggest number to the smallest. Now, these are all decimal fractions, right? Decimal numbers. So you need to figure out, okay, how do I begin to look for the biggest one? So the first clue, you look to see if there are there are whole numbers involved. Yes, there are. We have 1.23, 1.32, 2.12, and 2.5. So, right away, the twos would be the biggest numbers, followed by the ones. So that's the first step, right? So you would write them like this. Then we'll consider the first number after the decimal point. So let's look at the number 2.50 and 2.12. So we're looking at the number right after the decimal points, right? So we have a 5 and we have a 1. So the 2 is the same value, so you can't use that to rank them. So you look at the first number after the decimal point, which is 5 and 1 in this case. Which one is bigger? The 5 is bigger than the 1. So the 5 would go here. So we'd have 2.50 first. And then the 5 is bigger than the 1. So once you know that, it doesn't matter what the number after the 1 was, right? Because 5 here is bigger than the 1 here. So we'd have ranked those two. Now the same principle would apply for the ones. We can't use 1 to rank because they are the same value. So we have to look at the first number after the decimal point. So we have 3 and 2 in this case. So which one is bigger? The 3 is bigger than the 2. So we'd write it in that order. So it didn't matter now whether this was a 3 or 2. It didn't matter in this case. So, and we'd have gotten that answer. So before I proceed, I know we talked about this in decimals just some moments ago. But let me know if you're confused about this. This is a section 1 problem. I want to make sure we are all clear about this in ranking. Good job, guys. So how are you guys feeling about the exam so far? Are you all ready? So let's proceed. Still have a couple more questions left. So what number is 405,012? Right? So this one we need to basically write this word in terms of a number. This one is a giveaway. So this is a section 1 type question that usually comes or in this form. 20 times in practice people. Right? Now the time given here is the approximate time you should spend on a question that is 1 mark. Right? That's the section of the question. Remember, the exam is about time as much as it is about the exam. Good job. So it's 405,012. So the thousands column would have had 405, and then 12 would have been 1 in the tens and 2 in the ones column. Let's go ahead. We are on to question number 8. So the perimeter of a square is 32 centimeters. What is the area? So think carefully about this question. right? So the correct response would be 64. Now I'm going to take a minute to discuss this one because this one is not as easiest of questions. Right, so let's understand a little bit what is perimeter. So I will draw my square here. Right, so the question said this. It said that the perimeter of the square now the key to remember here is a square equals to 32 centimeters. Now, what is perimeter? Perimeter would be the distance around the entire shape. So the perimeter of the square would be adding this side, this side, this side, and this side. So the four sides. But what is the property of a square that makes it unique? In a square, all sides are equal, right? So in a square, all sides are equal. So that's the property that makes a square unique. So how do we find for one side? If four sides, when you add them up, give you 32, how do you find for one side? You would divide 32 into 4 to give you 8 centimeters. Now, before I proceed to do the last part of this question, let me know if you guys are confused at this step or if you follow it. So the first thing is to understand that perimeter is the distance all around an object. So the perimeter would be adding. Step 2 would be to know that the four sides of the square are equal. So we need to know to get one side, we simply divide by 4. So we divided 32 by 4 to give us 8. So that would have been step 1. Now let's proceed to the other step. So we really need to find the area. So if one side equals 8 centimeters, what is the area of a square? How do we find that, guys? It's side multiplied by side or side squared. But what is the distance of one side? It's 8 centimeters. We would multiply by 8 centimeters. Now we need to know our 8 times table. So 8 by 8 would give us 64. Now guys, don't forget your units. So it's not 64 apples, bananas, pears, right? It's 64 centimeters squared. The unit for area in this case is centimeters squared. So don't believe all the centimeters squared and throw away your marks, please. Make sure you put your units, right? So let me recap. Perimeter is a distance all around a shape, right? So in this case, the perimeter of a square would be adding all the four sides to give you 32, right? In this case, that give you the total. So to find for one, we need to divide by 4 since a square has 4 equal sides. When we do that, we would get 8. 8 by 4 would be 32. So one side is 8 centimeters. 8, 8, 8, 8 would give you 32. The question asks for the area. So if we stop here, we will not be awarded our full marks. So to find the area, it's side by side. So to get the area, we just multiply the 8 by the 8 to give you 64 centimeters squared. Again, don't forget your units. So let me make sure you guys understand this fully, how I arrived at the 64. Don't want anybody being confused at this point. All right, so I'm taking my time to explain the answers properly for you guys. So while you're answering the poll, what is the formula for calculating the area of a rectangle? How do you find the area for a rectangle? Message me. Let me see who knows this. Right, so this is another one you should be familiar with. Good job, Sajida, Nathan. Right, so it would be length by breadth or length by width. Right, remember a rectangle would have different sides. It's not like a square. Wonderful, guys. So Let's proceed to the game again. So I know I'm dragging out this game, but I really wanted to provide explanations to the answers. Right? I want to make sure we all understand where we are. So Jack and Jill shared 500 milliliters of water in 2 buckets. Jack got 50 milliliters more than Jill. How much water does Jill have? So, in case you're wondering, this is a unequal sharing problem. You guys are connected. Right, guys. So let me explain this problem. So the correct response would have been 225. Jill would have gotten that. But let's understand the process involved in thinking through an equal sharing problem. Right. So we have 2 persons here. We have Jack and Jill. I don't know if you all know the rhyme. They went up a hill to fetch a pail of water, but that's the context here. So we have Jack and Jill. Right? So they have 500 milliliters of water together to share in a bucket. Jack gets 50 milliliters more than Jill. So we need to find out how many would Jill have. So this is an unequal sharing problem. So the first step in solving an unequal sharing problem would be to remove the excess. So what is removing the excess in this case? So if we have to remove the excess, we remove the more in this case. So the fact that Jack gets 50 milliliters more. So we would subtract 50 from 500, and that would give us 450. So that's the first step in solving this problem. We remove the excess. The second step would be to divide whatever you're left with. So we divide what's left between the persons. So in this case, it's just Jack and Jill. So there are 2 persons involved. So you need to divide the 450 into 2 parts. So 450 divided by 2 would give us 225. Now we could have stopped here, right? Because you know for a fact that Jack would have gotten 225, but you'd have to add the 50 milliliters back to get Jack's total amount, right? So Jack would have gotten 275. And Jill would have gotten the 225 alone, right? So both of them would get 225, but remember when you are finding out, let's say the question asks for Jack, in this case, it would have been 275. You have to add the 50 that you removed at the beginning. So the steps involved in this process, for unequal sharing, 1, you remove the excess, in this case, the 50 more that Jack would have gotten. You'll get an answer. Step 2, you divide that answer between the persons, or how many persons that are left. So in this case, there's 2 persons, Jack and Jill. We divide that, we get 225. In this case, you'd share the 225 between the 2 persons, but remember, we need to add the 50 back to Jack. So let me know if you're confused about this, the steps involved in an equal sharing problem. Right, I want to make sure you guys understand these things thoroughly before your exam. So while we're having fun in the game, we don't want to get sidetracked and lose the essence. of what we are doing. So I believe we have one more question left in the game. So let's proceed. Oh, we have a tough battle going on there. So this is an easy question. 2.75 kilograms equals to 275 grams. Is that true or is it false? Right, the correct response would be false. Now let's see why. So we have 2.75 kilograms. Right? So 1 kilogram is equal to 1,000 grams. So 2.75, what we need to do is multiply by 1,000. So when we multiply by 1,000, we shift the decimal point 3 places to the right. So the decimal point would be here originally. We had shifted 1, 2, 3. So we need to put a 0 here. The decimal point would go after that. So we would get 2,750 guys. Grams. Right? So we need to multiply by 1,000. When you multiply a decimal number by 1,000, you need to shift the decimal point 3 places to the right. This is how you would arrive at the solution, 2,750 grams. So that would give you the final answer here. So let's go back to the Kahoot. But before we declare our winners, let's see, did you guys follow that? Multiplication of 1,000 when we involve decimal points. So let me understand this. So if you're multiplying by 100, how many places to the right would you shift the decimal points? Instead of 1,000, we are multiplying by 100. How many places would you shift the decimal points? You would shift the decimal points 2 places to the right if it was 100 instead of 1,000. Right? So that's the trick. Yes, 2 places. 1,000 would be 3. Good job. So you guys did pretty good. Let's see who takes the spotlight today. Okay, guys. So if you guys enjoyed today's class, it was based on section 1 type SVA questions, right? So we did a quick recap. So what I did was thoroughly explain each one. So it wasn't just about getting the answers, as I keep always explaining. It's about the steps involved, the process involved. I know your exam is in 1 week's time, or about 9 days. So ensure that you could redo some of these problems if you're given it, and so on. Don't panic. Remember to always start with your best questions. Don't spend a whole set of time if you're not figuring out the question. Move along and try your best to answer as much, right? So with this, guys, we have come to the end of this tutorial. It was a pleasure serving you today. Please take a minute to fill out the quality control questions that would appear at the end of this meeting. Let us know what you'd like us to do differently and how we can improve to better serve you. Thank you for choosing BetterGradesFast.com. Do have a blessed day. So guys, the next session we have like this would be on Friday evening, right? And we will be looking at section 2 and 3 type questions in that one. So goodbye, guys. Take care. Enjoy your week.